Is there any more of a depressing situation than the one UCLA football is in right now? Looks like for the first time since 2015 Kansas, there will be a Power 4 conference team that goes 0-12. Kansas was in the middle of a decade of misery. UCLA might just be starting theirs. There was so much hope around the Bruins program by fans going into the season with the addition of Nico Iamaleava, but the $1.5 million quarterback has become a nightmare situation. Their best chance to win a game the remainder of the season is against Maryland on October 18th and Nebraska on November 8th after they fell to Northwestern this week. How do we get here and can it be fixed? This is the story of the football program that may not win a football game this year. But before we get into this, if you enjoy college football content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, let me know what your record prediction is for UCLA in the comment section below. I can't help but laugh, as a few years back I did a video on UCLA and their downfall and basically talked about how they should have been competing for Pac-12 titles, especially when USC was down. And as I spoke about the concerns of the program from a budgeting standpoint and how they had the schedule to do well, I felt like there was still a bunch of red flags around the Chip Kelly era and the program as a whole. UCLA fans destroyed me when they started off 6-0 with wins over Bowling Green, Alabama State, South Alabama, Colorado, Washington, and Utah were going 9-4 in the season. That was 2022. A year later, after an 8-5 season, Chip Kelly was gone running to the offensive coordinator position for Ohio State and basically not recruiting during the 2024 recruiting cycle, crushing the program. Kelly went 35-34 in 6 years at UCLA and led them to 3 bowl games, but could never do enough to make it to the Pac-12 title game. Kelly wouldn't adjust to the new age of college football, which played a massive role in their lack of success. When he was hired, he was supposed to make them a top college football program, especially with USC being a mess at the time. Instead, he gave up towards the end and stopped caring. When he bolted, he left UCLA in a bad place. Deshaun Foster was basically set up to fail after being named head coach following the departure of Chip Kelly. Foster played for UCLA before spending time with the Carolina Panthers and San Francisco 49ers in the NFL. He returned to UCLA as a student assistant before becoming a grad assistant. In 2016, he was named Texas Tech's running backs coach, returned to UCLA in the same role in 2017. He was a beloved figure by the UCLA fan base and was thrown into the fire as head coach following Chip Kelly's departure to become the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. UCLA was coming off some decent seasons, with the Bruins joining the Big Ten in 2024. The roster did not seem ready. Toss in a first-year head coach, and you had a disaster on your hands. Things got off to a shaky start with the famous Big Ten Media Days press conference.
Football-wise, we're just excited. I'm sure you guys don't know too much about UCLA, but our football program, but we're in LA. It's us and USC. I'm just basically excited, really. That's it.
As CBS Sports wrote, it's likely saved them money in the short term, but now has set the program back. UCLA's athletic department is in shambles financially, and that is why they made them move to the Big Ten for the bigger television revenue check. Foster would bring in former Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, serve as his OC, and would promote Ikaka Malloy to defensive coordinator. Bieniemy was coming off a 4-13 season with the Washington Commanders that saw head coach Ron Rivera get fired and replaced by Dan Quinn. Bieniemy would have full play calling duties with the Commanders, the first time in his career he would do such a thing. The offense would go on to rank 21st in average yards per game. Bieniemy had experience coaching at the college level. He would serve as Colorado's running back coach and UCLA's running back coach from 2001 to 2005, and served as the Bruins recruiting coordinator in 2005. He would also return to Colorado to serve as their offense coordinator in 2011 and 2012, before joining the Chiefs coaching staff. In 2020, he was offered the Buffalo's head coaching job, but would turn it down wanting to be the head coach at the NFL level. He won 2 Super Bowls with the Chiefs. Bieniemy spoke on coaching at UCLA, saying, "Teaching and coaching does not change. You still have to do a great job of over-communicating clarity. You have to make sure that you're reaching your guys in the room. It's never easy regardless of whether it's the pros, be it college or high school, because everyone accepts or retains information differently. There was a lot of excitement around having Bieniemy with the Bruins, and Foster was applauded for making the move. But for those who dug deeper, there were also some concerns and even red flags before the season started. Dimitri Dorlis from the Mighty Bruin wrote before the season, "It was startling how disinterested Bieniemy was at adapting his offense to match his personnel. Washington had a decent rushing attack, but instead chose to throw the ball an excessive amount, which was not ideal for a young quarterback and a suspect offensive line. Sam Howell regressed throughout the season, and players voiced frustration through the season. The Washington Post had a money quote in the aftermath of his firing stating, "Players who spoke on the condition of anonymity discussed internal team dynamics, describing Bieniemy as a hard-working coach who hamstrung his efforts with poor communication, stubborn play calling, and disregarded for player feedback." Malloy was an experienced defensive coordinator as well, having been co-defensive coordinator at Washington in 2020 and 2021, as well as Yale in 2009 to 2011. The program was a mess, said the 18th ranked recruiting class in the Big Ten in 2024, and they saw a max exodus of players through the transfer portal. It was a major rebuild for a first-time head coach who thought he was going to be the running back coach in 2024. They returned Ethan Garbers at quarterback and TJ Harden at running back. They brought in Michigan State transfer Jalen Berger, who I still can't believe is still in college. There were also some returning faces at wide receiver. The main concern was the offensive line. Along with that, the defense needed to figure out how to replace a bunch of production. UCLA opened up with an over-and-under win total of 6.5, but I kid you not, following Foster's terrible Big Ten Media Day press conference, that dropped to 4.5 according to Fox Sports. UCLA would open up the 2024 season with a 16-13 win over Hawaii, barely escaping the island before being destroyed by Indiana in the Rose Bowl 42-13. That set up a brutal 3-game stretch against LSU, Oregon, and Penn State, which they lost all of those games, as well as a close loss to Minnesota 21-17. A lot of teams would have just curled up and given up after a tough stretch like that, but instead UCLA would go on a 3-game winning streak, beating Rutgers, Nebraska, and Iowa before losing to Washington and USC. They closed out the regular season with a 20-13 win over Fresno State to finish the season 5-7 and 3-6 in conference play. They barely missed out on playing in a bowl game, but for all of the turmoil during the offseason, some could say it was an impressive first season under Foster with everything he had to deal with. Following the season, Bieniemy and UCLA would choose to part ways, and the Bruins replaced him with Indiana co-offensive coordinator and quarterback coach Tino Sunseri. The offense ranked among one of the worst in college football, scoring just 21 touchdowns and putting up 3,927 yards on the season. They ranked just ahead of Purdue, Michigan, and Northwestern in the Big Ten. They dropped from averaging 26 points per game to only 18 points per game. All the players on the offense seemingly regressed as well. They had watched wide receiver Logan Loya, as well as running back TJ Harden and Justin Martin enter the transfer portal. Heading into the 2025 season, UCLA needed to replace 42 seniors, including quarterback Ethan Garbers. Foster brought in a dozen new staff members, including general manager Kari Darlington, and UCLA thought they struck gold when they added former Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava. When Nico showed up at practice, The Athletic described it as the energy immediately changing. Darlington explained, "You saw a reaction from everybody. It was almost like everybody backs straightened up. Oh shoot, Nico's here." Being a local guy, there are so many people on the team that already knew who he was. There was excitement. While we have a real guy on campus, that can be a real difference maker for us. For Iamaleava, UCLA felt like an ideal fit. That all starts with being close to his family again, he told The Athletic, but also the connection he felt with Foster and the staff. "I really believe in what Coach Foss has going," he said. "I think he's building something special here and I want to be a part of it." The college football world would basically see a trade between Tennessee and UCLA, with App State transfer Joey Aguilar leaving UCLA to go to Tennessee and Nico coming to UCLA. According to The Athletic, Foster wasn't sold on Aguilar, but believed in Nico. Man, that was a wrong take. It was no secret the Bruins had been slow in the NIL space. Sources familiar with the Bruins' NIL situation told The Athletic that UCLA's NIL budget last year was $8 to $10 million, likely putting the Bruins in the bottom half of the Power 4 programs. Foster thought he was able to generate money, pointing to last season's 3-game win streak as a turning point. Iamaleava transfer sparked 14 more commitments through the transfer portal, as well as some highly touted high school recruits. Darlington said there was so much interest in playing with Iamaleava, the discounted start happening. Like if their price point was at $6 and they were able to offer $400,000, They were willing to do it. We lost out on probably 3 wide receivers because the schools we were competing with came back and doubled the money. For once, there seemed to be some excitement around UCLA football. Expectations were for them to make a bowl game at the very least with the influx of talent. I felt like they were still pretty bad personally though heading into the season. The excitement wouldn't last long as disaster would hit almost immediately. During the season opener, they would be embarrassed by Utah 43-10 at home. Then they would lose to UNLV 23-20 in Vegas, but the low point though would come against New Mexico when they were not just beaten but destroyed by the Lobos 35-10 in an empty Rose Bowl stadium. It was an embarrassment and would lead to the firing of Foster as head coach. UCLA said in a statement, knowing they messed up, saying, "He was named to this role at a challenging time of the year, on the cusp of a move to a new conference, and he embraced it, putting his heart into the program moving forward. His legacy and love for this university are firmly established." They are now staring down a possible 0-12 season with their best chance of winning coming against Northwestern this past weekend, a game they would go on to lose. UCLA's schedule is not easy to close out the season, and it's hard to pick out a game they can win. They host Penn State next week before having a 9 a.m. Pacific kickoff against Michigan State in East Lansing. They then host Maryland before traveling to Bloomington to play Indiana. They close out the season hosting Nebraska and Washington and travel to Ohio State and USC. Looking at their schedule, I don't see them winning a game. This program is a disaster. They don't have a stadium on campus, and although I love the Rose Bowl, it's hard to think fans will buy in and show up with it being so far off campus and the product being put on the field. Nico has regressed, having thrown for 788 yards and 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions this year. The school's alumni base just doesn't care about football, so although they have a decently rich alumni base, the school is second worst in football ticket revenue, according to the 2024 financial reports obtained by The Athletic's Scott Dochterman. The Bruins lost $200 million over the previous 5 years. It's hard to get excited for this program and think they will get a big name hire. UCLA is a disaster, and I bet some fans wish they could just cancel the remainder of the season. What do you think? Can UCLA win a game the remainder of the season? And if so, against who? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out my other videos YouTube thinks you will love right here. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.